Hi, everyone who is watching us right now through D&A television. I'm King Nyorobi, and today with our little discussion, I'm going to have Dr. Muchunguzi, and we are going to discuss a little things which is happening right now in South Africa. And I'm very happy to meet him today. Hello, sir.
Thanks very much.
How are you?
Fine, I'm good.
It is a long time we have not met.
Yeah, we have not met for quite a long time, and it's quite good that today we're meeting.
Yeah, thank you very much. We have a little discussion today.
Yes, very
and
good.
we are going to have this discussion concerning about xenophobia. What is happening in South Africa?
Yeah.
And I have a little questions today which we are going to discuss. And my first question is, Dr. Muchunguzi, you are an expert in mediation,
Exactly.
reconciliation,
Yes.
conflict prevention, conflict resolution, and peace building nationally and internationally.
Yes.
Looking at xenophobia that is going right now in South Africa, what do you call that?
Thanks very much. Your question is, looking at the current xenophobia situation in South Africa, what do I call that? If you won't mind, I'd like to reintroduce myself again. I'm Dr. Dennis Muchunguzi. As
Yes.
you mentioned exactly, I have been in a socio-economic development work for over 30 years in Tanzania, and I'm a Tanzanian by citizen, by nationality, by birth. I'm happy that you're having me today to discuss something on xenophobia. And as you mentioned it correctly, I'm an expert in conflict prevention, conflict resolution, mediation, arbitration, reconciliation, and issues of peace building, nationally and internationally. I've done some studies on peace, on conflict resolution, on conflict management in many African countries, concerning African elections, etc. Mostly centering on Ivory Coast, the 2010 elections, Zimbabwe, the 2008 elections, Kenya, the 2007 elections, and so many others. And they have had a very keen interest to know much of what is happening inside South Africa, and so as well as many other African countries. So to me, having me today, to me sounds very good, and you want me to look where you look. We are looking at xenophobia in South Africa, the current situation, unfortunate situation which is happening. So yeah, that is my short introduction, and for those who might need to follow up with myself and contact me, I'm free to be contacted through by phone or by WhatsApp. That is +255 717 777 222. That is +255 717 777 That's my mobile number and my WhatsApp. And anyone from any corner of the world could contact me anytime, 24/7, and I'd be more than pleased to give my views on many issues of international cooperation, international peace, conflict resolution, and the subject which we want us to discuss now on, which is xenophobia in South Africa. Now, your question is, what do I call it? I call it an unfortunate situation. It's an unfortunate situation to have xenophobia resurfacing again in South Africa. We had a problem with xenophobia in South Africa, if I may recall, in 2008. Then we had something in around 2015, 2018. It has been coming on, and now it has resurfaced with full swing in 2026. Xenophobia, by definition or by explanation, not necessarily by definition, is the fear and hatred of people based on nationality. So you fear or you hate somebody because of his or her nationality. That is xenophobia. And so it's happening inside, not necessarily in South Africa. It has happened in so many other countries, but the South Africa situation is one of the worst. Wherever it happens, then it becomes worse. Of course, I've heard some people saying, no, we have seen many other African countries cracking down on undocumented and illegal immigrants and migrants, which is true. But the way those governments are doing it is not what is done in South Africa. In other countries, done by government authorities. And that's the legal and civilized process of dealing with undocumented and illegal migrants. In South Africa, it's the opposite, where the Gen Zs and the youth are taking up to the streets, banning businesses, closing up businesses of foreigners, beating up businesses, and we saw these situations of a woman who is pregnant being, forced not to go into delivering a baby in a hospital and being told to go home so that she can deliver probably and die on the street. It's not done in many other countries. The South Africa situation is different.
Yeah,
it's
sure.
more of hatred, it's more of, fear, hatred, and all this kind of stuff. So what I would call it, it's an unfortunate situation. Why unfortunate situation? Because South Africa, the Republic of South Africa, has many common shared values, many common shared history, much history to be shared with so many other African countries, and including and not limited to my country, the United Republic of Tanzania. So with that shared history among our countries, it leaves much to be desired as to why should then undocumented and illegal migrants in South Africa be treated like that. Let me put it this way. Every country is struggling with undocumented and illegal migrants, Tanzania being one, and many other countries. So it's a world problem. And so it's not only for South Africa, it's global. We are all struggling with undocumented and illegal migrants. But the way it is done is that national interior ministries, national migration departments in respective global countries of the world deal with that in a civilized manner, in a legal manner. People are taken to court, people are deported back to their countries, others are given status, status, etc. It's not the way we see it happening in the Republic of South Africa, because pictures which we are seeing are very, very, they make somebody look like, what is happening here? So I'd like to take this opportunity, first and foremost, to thank our presidents in SADC and in the East Africa community and the other parts of Africa who have always called for peace within the region. This is what we have been hearing from President Samia Suluhu Hassan, President Kagame, President William Ruto Museveni, and so many other, Mnangagwa, and others who have always, their excellency, the presidents have always been calling for peace and stability within the region. So this is very important to reckon with. But again, I would like to take this opportunity also to very much thank the South Africa president, His Excellency President Cyril Ramaphosa, who has come out to tell South Africans that we have a shared history with South Africa, with many African countries. And so he wouldn't have expected for the Gen Zs and the youth to go on the streets and what they're doing. And His Excellency, the President of South Africa, Cyril Ramaphosa, has called for the immigration and the Interior Ministry to look at that and look at how best can handle that. And he has requested the youth to refrain from what they're doing and see how the government is going to deal with that. But not only himself, but also the leader of the EFF, the Economic Freedom Fighters, His Excellency Honorable Julius Malema, whom I'm very much also commending for his views and ideas to the Gen Zs and to the youth of South Africa with regard to xenophobia. Malema has come out and told them that xenophobia won't work. And xenophobia won't come up as a solution to the problems we're having in South Africa by saying that foreigners are taking up your jobs, etc. So I commend Julius Malema, Honorable, for his views. Thanks very much, Julius Malema. Thanks very much, President Cyril Ramaphosa. And thanks very much all our leaders on the continent, many others who have come out, religious leaders, traditional leaders, and the others who have come out to say, we think this is not the way we should go with regard to undocumented and illegal migrants who are in South Africa. So, coming back to your question, it's an unfortunate situation. It's already happening. We never thought it would resurface into this big magnitude, and we look forward that it will be resolved in the very near time, because businesses of foreigners are currently closed and people are running out of the country, then out of fear, etc. And it's a situation which needs to be contained at the earliest time possible. And I do commend the South African government, and I look forward for President Cyril Ramaphosa and the South African government to quickly work on that, and they're doing it. And And that's how it should be. And so it's an unfortunate situation, much as you asked me about that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Dr. Muchunguzi, when you were explaining about it, you mentioned that South Africa has a shared history with African countries, especially with regard to the freedom of South Africa.
Yes.
Can you please explain what you mean by shared history?
Shared history. Thanks very much for your question. When we talk about shared history, much, of course, has to do with the freedom of South Africa. And that's why President Cyril Ramaphosa and Julius Malema have always been speaking on that. And the Gen Zs and the youth in South Africa might forget about this. But let me take you a bit back.
Yes.
You live about freedom of South Africa. Historically, I take a country like Tanzania. In 1835, there was a war in South Africa, Mfatkhane War, and the people ran out of war and migrated towards the north. Some headed by Mtambala and Mtambalike, and others headed by Zulugama, who was a Gwangara. In 1840, they came to Gombe, somewhere around Tunduma, between Tunduma, Tanzania, Zanzibar, and Zambia, somewhere there.
Yeah, sure.
Then they separated. These were same people running out from South Africa. Those headed by Mtambala and Mtambalike headed towards Sumbawanga.
Okay.
So much of the current Sumbawanga and some part of Zambia, which neighbors Sumbawanga, are people who came from South Africa, from the Mfatkhane War. Others headed by Zulugama, who was a Gwangara, went to Songea. So much of the entire of Ruvuma region in Tanzania, these are Zulus. And you know it by name. Tembo, Gama, and everybody.
Yeah, sure.
You know, so this is the back history where we have people in Tanzania like in Irukwa region and Tunduma and some parts of Tanzania, including the entire Ruvuma region, who just came from South Africa in 1800s. It's many years ago. Coming to the question of freedom,
yes.
and I commend President Cyril Ramaphosa has mentioned this. I'd like to quickly go through that based on your question. What do I mean by shared history? South Africa was under apartheid regime for many years. And the struggle was big. Nelson Mandela had to spend 27 years in jail. There were so many killings. There were brutality killings. Apartheid was one of the worst policies, one of the worst situations the world ever experienced. Apartheid in South Africa. Apartheid ended in South Africa around 1990. And that came out of the struggle of the South Africans themselves, but they were not alone in that struggle. African countries and the entire global world, we all joined with South Africa to end apartheid in South Africa. From Latin America to the United States of America, to Canada, to Europe, to Asia, to Middle East, to Australia, to New Zealand, the entire continent of Africa, we all joined hands to end apartheid in South Africa. African countries played a major, more key role in that struggle. So we housed the freedom fighters of South Africa in our countries. We housed them. So we had freedom fighters in Zambia, in Zimbabwe, in Mozambique, in Tanzania, in Kenya, in Uganda, and in so many parts of Africa. We had freedom fighters. If you take, for example, Tanzania, we sacrificed our land, we sacrificed our blood, we sacrificed our sweat, we sacrificed services, our servicemen and women who had to go and join freedom fighters to fight apartheid in South Africa. You may recall that whenever South Africa presidents visit Tanzania, they go to Morogoro, where we had the Solomon Mahilangu Freedom College in Mazimbo and in Dakawa. Even the campus of the Sokoine University of Agriculture of Tanzania is housed and it's called Solomon Mahilangu. That was a freedom college. Solomon Mahilangu, South African hero who was brutally killed by the South African apartheid regime in South Africa, and we gave that name there. And that's why you saw Thabo Mbeki, Zuma, Cyril Ramaphosa, whoever comes as a president of South Africa goes to Morogoro, because that was the base. I personally had the opportunity, myself, Dr. Dennis Muchunguzi, who is a Tanzanian by birth, by citizen, and by nationality. I had a very big privilege to serve as a caretaker of the South Africa freedom fighters. Physically. So I worked in a project that was funded by the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees and implemented by the Christian Council of Tanzania, CCT, and I was a refugee counselor for 45 years working for freedom fighters of South Africa. And I worked with the freedom fighters of South Africa of the Pan-Africanist Congress of Azania in Dar es Salaam and in constructing the camp called the Kigwa in Tabora. I was responsible myself in that project to provide food, accommodation, medicine, transportation, etc. for South African freedom fighters in Dar es Salaam and in Tabora, and to work on their resettlement with the UNHCR to other countries outside of Africa.
Wonderful.
So I played that part personally. We had a house in Ilala in Dar es Salaam, house number 13, that was owned by Wanawake wa Katoliki Tanzania, WAWATA. That's the women wing of the Catholic Church of Tanzania. We rented that house. And I was paying for that house over the years to keep freedom fighters from South Africa. And whenever it happened that the house was full, we would keep the freedom fighters in our own houses. So I kept freedom fighters of South Africa in my own houses, in my own house. The good thing about it is that some of these people are still alive today. And one of them is retired Major General Sipho Mashobane, who was the first black South African to be the head or the director of the South Africa Army or Defense Air Force, Gymnasium. His Excellency retired Major General Sipho Mashobane. He is retired. He is there in South Africa. And so whenever we would join to say the people worked with, he would be a testimony that yes, what Dr. Dennis Muchunguzi is saying, it's true. He worked for us. And we worked together in Tanzania to fight apartheid together. We would sit down, by the way, with the freedom fighters of South Africa. And they would teach us their songs. They taught me Zulu. They taught me Xhosa. And they taught me the songs, the liberation songs of South Africa. In Kigwa, we are building up the camps. Lions and leopards are surrounding us. And very risky. But we are there, and we put our firewood outside, and they teach me, and we sing. And I can sing a bit. One verse, let me remember. We used to sing
you can try that.
The freedom fighters, a song of South Africa. One we say, Unzi, unzi malo mtwalo, ufu nasilankhane. Unzi malo mtwalo, ufu nasilankhane. Asikatale no basamoshwa, sinzi khululeko. Asikatale no basamoshwa, sinzimisile nkhululeko. Unzi maumtwalo, ufu nasilankhane. Unzi malo mtwalo, ufu nasilankhane. Asikatale no basamoshwa, sinzimisile nkhululeko. This was a freedom song that I was.
And what does it mean in explanation?
Unzi malo mtwalo. The burden is heavy. Ufuna silankhane, silanganje. It means that we are required to unite. Asikatale no basamoshwa. We don't care even if we are killed or whatever. We don't care. Whatever comes, we don't care. Even if we are detained, we are killed.
And that is Zulu?
That is Zulu, of course. Asikatale no basa moshwa. Sinzimi sile inkululeko. We are determined for freedom.
Okay.
Yeah, so we had that.
The strong words.
Yeah, so those are very strong words, and that was a very big, strong song that was being sung as we were working together to deal with apartheid in South Africa. So we worked together, and I've mentioned His Excellency, retired Major General Sipho Mashobane, among others, whom we worked together. And when I graduated from university, by the way, my first payment check, was handed over to me by the late Moses Dlamini. May he rest in eternal peace. He was the accountant of the Refugees Department of the Christian Council of Tanzania. He gave me my first salary after graduating from university. He was from South Africa. He died of diabetes, and we buried him in Dar es Salaam. His grave is in Tanzania, here on our land. As we buried many people in Mazimbo, in Dakawa, and so many other places, we have graves of fellow South Africans. I'm giving out this history, as you said, so that the Gen Zs and the youth in South Africa know that we have a shared history with South Africa. We worked together and we fought together, and that's why when Nelson Mandela came out of prison, among his first countries to visit was Tanzania. With Winnie Mandela. Was Tanzania. That was one of, because Tanzania, Zambia, and many other African countries, we played a very key role in the struggle. Now, with that shared history, that common values, we had hoped that where there are undocumented and illegal migrants in South Africa, the treatment would not be what we are seeing on the streets. Because we sacrificed, and I've given the example of myself, who worked and sacrificed and worked with South Africans for the freedom of South Africa. So Cyril Ramaphosa, His Excellency, the President of South Africa, has made it categorically clear that the freedom we are enjoying today in South Africa came out also of ourselves, but of the sweat, blood, and big sacrifice of our African fellows and many other people around the world. And that one should not be forgotten by the Gen Zs and the youth of South Africa. That is the shared history which you're asking me, and which has to be recorded. And we need that to be recorded and understood clearly by the Gen Zs and the youth of South Africa. We struggled together, we got the freedom of South Africa together, and their treatment to undocumented and illegal immigrants is not a welcome idea the way we look at it today.
When you were speaking about the shared history, I remembered a short story when we speak about our former president Jakaya Mrisho Kikwete, when attended to a funeral of Nelson Mandela. He spoke about that history and about shoes that Mandela left here in Tanzania, and years back.
Yeah. That's it. He left his shoes here many years back. That's great. And yeah, we had all the South Africa and Tanzania and Zambia and so many other African countries. It's just one thing. And that history is a history which we cannot just do away with. It has to be remembered. The Gen Zs and the youth in South Africa have to understand that.
You know, when Jakaya Mrisho Kikwete, when he was speaking about that history, it made people to admire very much that story.
Yeah, the story.
Yeah, sure. Dr. Muchunguzi have explained well about the shared history. As of now, how does the situation look like? Do African countries need South Africa? And does South Africa need other African countries?
So it's a very good, interesting question. You're asking whether South Africa needs other African countries and whether African countries need South Africa. The answer is yes. We need each other, politically, economically, socially, culturally, languages, etc. We need each other. South Africa needs other African countries, and we need South Africa. Much of the outward export of South Africa, manufactured goods of export outside South Africa, they land in countries of Africa. You will never go in any supermarket, in any shop, in Tanzania, in Kenya, in Uganda, in Congo, in Sudan, where you won't find full stocks of South African goods.
Sure.
Yeah. All the wines you drink over on the continent of Africa, 70% or more, should be coming from South Africa.
South Africans.
All the grapes you eat, all the apples you eat. And it's not by fault or whatever, it's because of the geography. South Africa has winter and summer. So that weather favors them for grapes, for apples, etc. And that's why they're making all those wines and etc. and drinks, etc. And we welcome them. We like the drinks, we like them. So we are importing a lot from South Africa in African countries. Much of the outward export component of the South Africa economy goes into African countries. Okay. So we need each other, that's one. But two, South Africa is investing a lot in countries of Africa. Recently, His Excellency President Cyril Ramaphosa launched an initiative which aims at building a 150 or 60 billion US dollar investment of South Africa in Africa. 160 billion in the next 5 years. You are talking of 500 trillion Tanzanian shillings.
Okay.
500 trillion in the next 5 years. For 2026 alone, this year, projected South Africa investments in Africa, and specifically mostly in Southern Africa, is estimated at about 53 billion, which is about 138 trillion Tanzanian shillings. That's a lot.
A lot.
That's investment. So we have a lot of manufactured goods, including cars, electrical goods, mobile phones, foods, etc., textiles, and everything coming into African countries. And we also export to South Africa. The 2023 report showed that 11% of medical experts, medical specialists in the hospitals in South Africa, public hospitals, were foreigners.
Okay.
And out of those, many are equally from African countries. As of 2026, this year, South Africa has had about 250,000 foreign students.
Okay.
Foreign
students.
And mostly from African countries. 250,000. And in 2021, South Africa had about 3,000 educators in South Africa who are foreigners. 3,000 something who are foreigners educating in South Africa.
I'm an example of one who studied in South Africa.
You studied also in South Africa?
Yes.
That's it. You won't walk in Tanzania and meet 5-10 people and ask them where they started. One or two must have studied in South Africa.
Yeah, sure.
So you see, so we have that. But there has been a lot of learning in terms of technology, development, etc., between African countries and the Republic of South Africa. I worked for the Gaming Board of Tanzania, you know Gaming Board of Tanzania, and I was the member of the Board of Directors and the acting chair at a certain point of the Gaming Board of Tanzania. And we would always go to South Africa, you know, for learning on how gaming is being conducted.
Okay.
We picked much from South Africa for expansion of the Gaming Board of Tanzania profile in Tanzania, which is making billions and creating jobs, etc. We learned a lot. We would be in Joburg, would be in Mpumalanga, would be in Port Elizabeth, would be in Eastern Cape, and all those places, learning on how gaming is being conducted. And that's how we built the Gaming Board of Tanzania. We went a lot to South Africa. And we joined a lot of our South African colleagues in many other aspects, you know, in conferences in Tanzania, in Malawi, and other places. So there has been a lot of learning, a lot of sharing of what I would say, technology, development, education, academic, medical, you name it, between South Africa and many African countries. So this shows that we need each other in terms of trade, in terms of all what I've mentioned. And so there is no way South Africa would run away from other African countries, or other African countries would run away from South Africa. This is much of what the Gen Zs and the youth of South Africa have to understand, that we are one and we depend on each other, and we have a binding commonality among ourselves as African countries and the South Africa. So they should not go on, even if we have undocumented and illegal. You know, as I mentioned earlier, I do not support undocumented and illegal migrants in Tanzania or in South Africa or in any other country. But the treatment of undocumented and illegal migrants should be civilized should follow the procedures of law and the legal processes and not beating people on the streets, closing up and touching their businesses the way we are seeing it in South Africa.
Okay. Dr. Muchunguzi, when we are winding up our interview, what advice or opinions do you have maybe to South African youth, to Africans wishing they migrate South Africa, to the South African government, to people of South Africa, and to African countries outside of South Africa with regard to continue xenophobia currencies in South Africa?
That's very good. You're asking me what would be my advice to the groupings you have mentioned, with regard to recurrences and continuous xenophobia, which is becoming a problem in South Africa. One is South Africa cannot deal with this problem alone. As countries of Africa, we need to sit down and see how best can we handle that. Why are people also migrating to South Africa? That's what we should look at. We should go into the reasons also. Why are people migrating in thousands to South Africa? What's the problem? What is the issue? Okay, maybe there are green pastures there. Well and good, no problem. Any green pasture in the world, go and get it. That's what I always say. If you have a green pasture anywhere in the world, go and get it. You understand what I mean?
Yes.
One thing you should understand is that migration is not a sin. I don't know if I'm correctly understood.
Yes, sure.
Migration is not a sin. We are all migrants. All human beings are migrants. God has just rented us a place called Earth. Go there, and then when time comes, He gets you out of that place. So we are all migrants. We are passerbyers of this world, correct?
Yeah.
But when you come into countries, and Julius Malema has mentioned it correctly, my friend, if I ask you, or if I would ask any journalist around here, all of us have migrated from where we were born to other places. All of us.
Sure.
If we go into the Kenya Parliament, the Tanzania Parliament, the Uganda Parliament, the South Africa Parliament, the Nigeria Parliament, or whatever, and ask people, are you living where you were born? Most people left Mwanza, left Kigoma, left Kagera, left Songea, left Zanzibar, left Pemba to go somewhere and be successful. So you'll find most of the people from Kagera are migrants to other regions.
Sure.
Most of the Pembas from Pemba, they are migrants. You understand? Most of the people from southern Tanzania might be migrants to northern Tanzania. So we are all migrants. And that's what Julius Malema is saying. We are all migrants. And even when you come to Dar es Salaam, or you come to Johannesburg, or you come to Cape Town, do you own a house? No. You rent. And the landlord is asking you, when are you going to migrate into the house? That is the question. Yeah, so you move from Port Elizabeth, from KwaZulu-Natal, from Mpumalanga to Johannesburg or to Cape Town, and you don't have a house, and that's what Julius Malema is saying. And what you have to do, the first thing is to look for the landlord and somewhere to rent an apartment. So you migrate into an apartment. So most of us, you find us in cities, whether we are cabinet ministers, where we are members of parliament, whether we are, which title we are professors in the universities. When we first came to Dar es Salaam or to Dodoma or to Tanga to Arusha, we all came as migrants and we migrated into some people's houses. That is migration. Even the word in Kiswahili is utahamia lini. When will you migrate? Kwa hiyo wewe ni muhamiaji. Utahamia lini? When will you migrate into your apartment? And you don't pay the rent is over, you are kicked out of that, you migrate into another house. So we are all migrants. So migration is not a sin. We are all migrants in this world. When it comes to national boundaries, then, you have to follow laid down principles, laws and regulations. And those are put there nationally and internationally to protect the stability, security, peace, and movement of people within those countries. Otherwise, we are all migrants. So migration is not a problem. Migration is not a sin. Now, coming to your question, what would I advise?
Yes.
My advice would be that South Africa alone cannot handle the issue of undocumented and illegal migrants. We need, as African countries, to sit down and say, why are people migrating to South Africa? Okay. We need to look at that very critically, but it's not a sin again. We are not going there to prevent them. If they can legally migrate to South Africa, very good idea. Yep. And we welcome in our countries all legally documented and legally migrants from South Africa or from any other country. As Tanzania, we have no problem.
Okay.
You know, we have no problem. And I thank very much the Minister of Foreign Affairs under his leadership, His Excellency Mahamudu Thabit Kombo, Foreign Minister, Minister for Foreign Affairs in the East Africa Cooperation. He's doing a very wonderful job, you know, to strengthen our relations with other countries in Africa and in the world. Mahamudu Thabit Kombo, you know, under the leadership of Her Excellency Dr. Samia Suluhu Hassan, they are doing a wonderful job, you know, with the top leadership of the country. Vice President Dr. Emmanuel John Nchimbi, Zanzibar President Dr. Hussein Ali Mwinyi, and Prime Minister Mwigulu Lameck Nchemba, and Vice President Dr. Emmanuel Nchimbi, and Zanzibar President Dr. Hussein Ali Mwinyi, and Her Excellency Dr. Samia Suluhu Hassan, President of Tanzania. They are doing a wonderful job to strengthen our bilateral relations and cooperation, economical, social, political, cultural, with other countries. We are doing it very well. Now, what should we do? What we should do, according to me, based on my studies, research, and all that, we need to reach at a situation where we are going first to look at why are many migrants from our countries going to South Africa. Two, why are they undocumented, and why are they illegally? We need also to look into that. We need to help the government of South Africa to look into that as African countries. And then we need to have goodwill ambassadors. Goodwill ambassadors. People from African countries who can go to South Africa and talk to the South African community, the chiefs, the queens, the elders, the church leaders, the CSOs, the political parties, leaders, the business community in South Africa, colleges and universities, the schools, etc., etc. Go from Nigeria, go from Tanzania, goodwill ambassadors from Rwanda, from Kenya. Go and talk to the Gen Zs and the youth in South Africa to tell them that we really need each other. We really need each other. And to invite them also into our countries. That's the second thing. There should be cross-culture learning. Let us get as many school children, as many university students from South Africa to Nigeria, to Tanzania, to Mount Kilimanjaro, to Zanzibar, to Serengeti, to Ngorongoro, to our schools, to our life here. Let them come to Solomon Mahulanga, Freedom College in Mazimbo, in Morogoro. Let students from Cape Town University, from from Joburg, from Port Elizabeth, from Mpumalanga, from Eastern Cape, from East London, from KwaZulu Natal, let them come to Morogoro, to Dakar, and see where the freedom fighters, the graves are there of their fellow men and women, South Africans who are buried here, and where they sat to get the freedom of South Africa. Let them come. So there should be a lot of that kind of a learning and exchange of students, of young people coming into our countries, in addition to the goodwill ambassadors. Now that requires countries in Africa to quickly look at it and see how best they can get people who would be goodwill peace ambassadors from African countries going into South Africa and talking and educating and exchanging with the South African community on how best can we get that being done. If that is done, that would be quite wonderful, and that would ease the situation. And for South African youth, the Gen Z, what I have to tell them, kindly refrain from what we are doing. What we are doing is uncalled for. What we are doing is unjustifiable. We have a Ministry of Home Affairs and the Department of Migration of South Africa. Allow them time. As President Cyril Ramaphosa, His Excellency, the President of South Africa, has said, give them time to look into these issues and see how best it can be handled. There is a way it could be handled, not in a situation which is now making everybody think of hating South Africa. And I speak that, very politely and very diplomatically. We don't want to create a situation where people are going to start hating South Africa. South Africa is a beautiful country. I've been there 100 times. It's one of the great countries, very peaceful, very beautiful, so nice to visit, and so nice to do trade with, And as you said, you have also studied in South Africa,
yes.
so many good schools, colleges, etc. And so to that level, we would like to remain at peace and in love with South Africa. And so I call upon the Gen Zs of South Africa and the young people to refrain from what they are doing and to understand that, as I said, we have shared history and we have a present with South Africa and a future with South Africa. And they should look into that and leave it to the South Africa Ministry of Home Affairs and the Department of Migration to look into how best they handle the undocumented and illegal migrants in South Africa. That will keep the life well, and then we'll see how best that can be handled. So that's my call to them, to the young people. Very humbly, I request them to refrain and stop the hatred, stop touching businesses and kicking people out. Let the government of South Africa, His Excellency the President of South Africa, has already mentioned that. Julius Malema has also mentioned that. And I think there can be more solutions rather than having that xenophobia kind of situation which we are seeing. And I say I'm talking to the Gen Zs very humbly, very kindly, you know. So they should not go into WhatsApp, into Instagram and say, now you are forcing us, Dr. Muchunguzi, to do 1, 2, 3. It means, Dr. Muchunguzi, you are supporting undocumented and illegal migrants to come to South Africa. What about if they came to Tanzania? No. I want to put it clearly. Dr. Dennis Muchunguzi is not supporting undocumented or illegal migrants into South Africa or any other country. The Gen Zs and the youth of South Africa should understand that.
Sure.
What I'm saying, let us give more time. I know they will say, no, we have given more time to the South African Ministry of Home Affairs and Immigration for many years. It seems they are failing to handle this. That's what they will write on WhatsApp. You will go in Instagram and Facebook. They will write in TikTok.
Sure.
They say, Dr. Muchunguzi, we agree with you, but it seems like the South Africa government is not, no. It's not an easy thing to handle the way the Gen Z and the youth think. It's not something which has to be handled on many affairs. It touches the political, the economic, the social, the cultural aspects of those people, of those migrants. And so it's not something which can be like 2 + 2 = 4, close the door, you open, etc. It needs time. And every country, I repeat, globally, is struggling through that.
Yeah, sure.
So let our brothers and sisters in South Africa not kick us out of South Africa. And I'm not a spokesperson of the countries of Africa, not even my country, Tanzania, but I'd like to assure South Africans that African countries, we are going to continue working in peace with South Africa, investing in South Africa, allowing them to invest with us, trading with them, and doing all those things that we have been doing very peacefully, and we love South Africa's African countries. We are not going to say we are doing the same and getting South Africans out of our countries. As African countries, we shall never do that. That's what they should understand. We shall not refrain and say, get all the South Africans out of our countries. We will never do that. That's what they should understand. I'm not a spokesperson of the Africa continent, but I'm one of those people who have studied much of the Africa continent. And I know the way we are moving on as Africa continent. And I can speak with confidence, that no country in Africa will now start saying, get South Africans out. We will never do that. We are welcoming South Africans, and we shall continue to welcome South Africa, and we shall continue to work irrespective of what is happening, and we shall continue as countries of Africa to work with the government of South Africa on how best can we deal with undocumented and illegal migrants. So that's my proposition, and thanks for having me, and I think that is it for today with regard to that, and unless you have another question on that level, but that's much of what I would advise as of now, and tell the undocumented and the illegal migrants who are in South Africa that very sorry, and the other foreigners of what is happening. We understand your situation as African countries. We are together with you in this difficult time of being touched and being kicked out of South Africa, but we do believe that the South Africa government is in position to handle that, and that it will make sure that you are safe in South Africa or as you come back into your countries. So they should know that we are with them in our prayers, we are with them in our hearts, and we are not letting them, face what they are facing. We are with them, and that's why we are discussing here, because we have that empathy and sympathy of saying these are Africans, these are foreigners from even other countries, not only Africa, and as international community and as brothers and sisters, we share their situation as of now, and we look forward that it gets resolved in the short time possible and they can live their life well, whether in South Africa or back in their countries.
Thank you very much, Dr. Muchunguzi, for a great time you have offered us.
Thanks very much for having me, and I repeat that my number is +255 717 777 222, +255 717 777 222, and it has a WhatsApp. That's the name of the number of Dr. Dennis Muchunguzi, and as I said, a citizen, national, and a Tanzanian by birth, by citizen, by nationality in Tanzania, and I look forward to seeing the situation being resolved in South Africa.
Okay. Who you are watching us right now, this is Dr. Muchunguzi and I'm King Nyorobi. Dr. Muchunguzi is an expert in mediation, reconciliation, conflict prevention, conflict resolution, and peace building nationally and internationally. Let me call it a day, and please subscribe there down and share our interview to other people, and please ask other people. Even if you want to comment, just comment there. Next time we are coming to pass around your comments. Good luck.